Hi, I'm Nelly Knitter, and today I'm going to teach you how to do a twist stitch. Now there are two types of twists. The first twist that we're going to do is a left stitch twist. So when we're doing our twists, it's kind of like a cable in that we're reordering the stitches, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to use the second stitch, and that's going to be the first stitch that we knit through, and then this first stitch is the second stitch we knit through, and between them we don't slide the stitches off the needle. So the first stitch that we're going to do is called a left twist. So when we do a left twist stitch, we need to knit through the back of the loop, the second one. So I'm going to try and turn this upside down so I can kind of show you how to do it, so that you can see what's happening. So I'm going to knit through the back of this loop. So in order to do that, I have to stick my needle in there. Okay. So now that I have my needle in there, I'm going to turn my work back around. Okay. So you can see, hopefully, I'm knitting through the back of that stitch. And now I have to go through my first stitch. And I just knit that stitch normally. And then I take that stitch and I cast both of the stitches off. Now this is where it becomes tricky, because sometimes they'll cast the one stitch off and you don't know if you've cast the second stitch off or not. So make sure that you always know which two stitches you should be casting off. If you do forget, what I do is I count my number of stitches and see if I've an extra stitch if I were to cast that off, or if I'd be short a stitch if I left it on the needle. Alright, so I'm going to do this again. Whoops, if I don't lose my stitches here. There you go. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this again. It's kind of tricky, and when you do this, I don't hold my work like this when I do it normally. I'm just doing it so that it's kind of easier for you to see the process what I'm doing. And sometimes you can't get your needle through there correctly. Alright, so now I've knit through my back loop, and then I'm going to knit the first stitch, and I'm going to cast those two stitches off. Okay, I'll do it one more time. So I knit through the back of the loop, and then I knit through the front of the loop. And that's how we do a left twist. Now to do a right twist, it's kind of similar. 2, 3. To do a right twist, instead of knitting to the back of the loop, we're going to knit into the second stitch again, or we're going to knit in through the front of the loop. Now you have to be careful when you're doing this, because sometimes when you're sticking your needle through the back, you don't get that stitch right, because you have to go underneath that little strand that is in between. So you kind of have to be careful when you do that. So you knit through the first loop, or second loop, sorry, and then you knit through the first loop and cast them both off. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing again. I stick it in. I go to the back side of my work and make sure that I'm okay there with my needle. And then I knit through the first loop and I cast both those stitches off. Do it one more time. So I'll knit through the front, check in the back to make sure that I've done it right. Knit through that second stitch, and then knit through that first stitch. and cast both of them off. Now, my pattern that I'm working on right now for these, I alternate a twist round around where I make these left and right twists, and then after that I have to do a round of plain knitting. And when I do that round of plain knitting, what I do is I make it a little bit loose, and that makes it easier for you to insert your needle into the second stitch when you're trying to make your knit stitches. Also, sometimes the back, when you're trying to knit through the back loop, you'll pick up this little strand, the loop, from the stitch of the row below. And when I do that, all I do is I pull it out a little bit. If I can do it. I pull it out a little bit, and that makes it easier for you to actually get your needle into the back of the stitch. Similarly, if I'm inserting it into the knitwise and doing a right twist, and I get into that the stitch underneath, I'll use it and I'll pull it a little bit, and then hold that stitch with my needle, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to get into the stitch like you're supposed to. So those are my tips on making a right twist and a left twist.